Well, welcome back, everyone, as we continue to dive into workforce energy management and the new ways of working. I'm so excited today to have our guest interview be an actual fractional worker. But it's interesting because when I talked to Tara about how did you get into this, because we're just talking about it now, and certainly it's been around, she had quite a story of how she got into fractional works. So, welcome, Tara, to the Workforce Energy Management Show. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, Kelly, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love to share my stories.
Yeah, so let's get into it. How did you get into fractional work before fractional work was a thing?
So it really actually goes back to when I first even started my business. Like this has been a journey. Kelly, I've got to find a way to start lying about when I started my business because I've been in business for 18 years and that just sounds way too long. The fractional part has probably been 6 or 7 years of that. But when I first started, I really focused on website content and social media marketing, which that was 2017. So like Facebook was like the only kind of social media really then. So it's definitely been a journey. Like things have changed over the years. But one thing about me is that I'm one who I'm never satisfied. I'm always like, what's next? How can I level up? What's next? What's next? What's next? And then the fractional thing actually came to me as such a beautiful gift. So I have a client, I'm still working with them today. I've been working with them for, oh my gosh, it'll be a decade, I think, this coming month. So one day I'm with him and we're having a chat and he introduces me to someone else and he introduces me as his fractional CMO. And I'm smiling and going in my head, oh my gosh, what is he talking about? It was a beautiful gift. And I discovered, when I did some research, I was like, yeah, actually, I have leveled up. I have gotten to that point where I'm really functioning at that high C-suite fractional level for my clients. I'm not a freelancer. I'm not a consultant anymore. I'm really the strategy partner for a lot of these organizations. And it was so gradual that I didn't even really realize that that is what had happened.
Yeah, can you explain your view of fractional work? Because there's definitely been different definitions as I've worked with clients of what does that look like? So, in your mind, what does fractional work look like to you as a worker?
For me, what that means is I am providing the C-suite level help that an organization needs, but in a part-time capacity, and sometimes even significantly less than part-time capacity. The companies that work well with me are those who are generally $5 to $50 million companies where they maybe don't have the full-time on-site on their staff C-level position. And it doesn't just happen with folks like myself who are the CMO in the marketing role. Sometimes you'll have fractional finance folks. That's a pretty common to have a fractional CFO. So it just means that they don't need or can't afford that full-time on-site person. And now because we're so comfortable with doing this, I mean, we're meeting remote today. We're so comfortable meeting remote with our clients that we can often service several people at the same time when they don't need full-time.
Yeah. Well, so it was interesting because we started with the fractional conversation, but then when we dug into your story and when you even started your business, you talked about this interesting concept that's called backward planning. And I love this because sometimes it feels like we're meant to go on a different path and we don't know how to do it or where to start. And this could be in any capacity, professional, personal, life switches and whether we want them to or not. And you mentioned this backward planning. And I thought that was such a firmed up way to go down these unknown paths that we don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to fail? How do you take the first step? And can you explain this concept a little bit more?
Okay. I'm glad you asked because now I get to tell this other story that I love. So my moment was I had one of those days a lot of us have where I hit the wall. Like I was done. I was not going to make it. I was going to crack. I was going to have some sort of serious breakdown. So I was working part-time at a manufacturing company, who is who I serve today. And I was in, however, an accounting position, which Kelly, you know me, I'm a storyteller, I'm a creative, I'm not a numbers person. So that was one of those things I just kind of got pushed in this place and it wasn't a fit for me. Add to that that I was a new mom. My son was at home by himself. I'm sitting, staring out the window in this company going, what the heck am I doing here? this isn't what I want. This isn't working. Like I was just was so overwhelmed and so stressed out because I was trying to get this side hustle going. I was trying to work for this other company. I was trying to raise a family. Just life was too much. I had a moment. I was in my 20s, so I did what any self-respecting 20-something professional woman would do. I got up, I closed my office door, I sat back down and Mom, yeah, I called my mom because that's what you do, right? You're calling mom. But my mom isn't just an amazing mom. I mean, she's great. I'll fight you for it. Best mom ever. I don't know your mom, Kelly, but mine, she's perfect. He's like, Mom, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I am going to break if I don't make a change. She knew I was trying to get this business going, and she was so encouraging to me because she told me how she had known so many people who want to do a thing. And like you said, it works on so many levels. That's what I love about this concept we're going to talk about. Is it's not just for a business thing. My story is for starting my own business, but it works for so many areas of our life. Mom said, Tara, you can do this. Get out your calendar and pick a day. Put that big X on it. Pick a day. She says, it doesn't matter what that day is, and that day can change, but you have to pick a day to commit that you're going to do this. And then this is where that backup planning comes in. She said, you take that day and you work back until you get to today. What is the last thing I need to do before I can quit my day job? And what is the step before that? And the step before that? And what's beautiful about this, Kelly, is it takes all this emotional stuff. There's all this stuff between here's where I am today, and especially in that moment, at that time in my life when I was so overwhelmed. And I know you've been there. You talk so much about burnout. Like you just can't even see. Yeah, you might daydream, you might start at the weekend. Oh, great. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? But you can't figure out how to get through all this emotional stuff that you're dealing with. So what mom told me, that backward planning took all that emotion out and helped me to rationally think of concrete steps and actions that I could take to get me closer to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, I love it. And it just firms it up as steps.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, it's the unknown that's so scary. But when you break it up into those micro moments or those little milestones, it's a lot more obtainable. And it's interesting that you said you were sitting in your office, just like, I hate it. And we do that day after day or week after week, and we're like, next quarter will be better. Next year will be better. And that was me too. It just was so chaotic, and it started to get so misaligned. But I was like, next quarter will be better.
Mm-hmm.
Next year. And then 10 years went by, and I obviously had my burnout crash, because all the signals were saying this is misaligned to what you want to do, where you want to go. And so the backwards planning just hits me so hardcore, because I'm like, that makes sense in such a clouded,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed state
Mm-hmm.
to say, I can't do this anymore. Make a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And these goals are so big. They're so big that that's where we get even more overwhelmed as if we stay in that place. So for people like us who are trying to start a business or do our own thing, it certainly works for that, but it works for any big goal. It works for writing a book. It works for running a marathon. It works for fitness and health goals too. It works for anything that seems daunting and overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, let's cross these over. So let's do
Okay.
some backwards planning. If someone wants to become a fractional worker, because I also have a lot of conversations with that right now. And we're talking strategic roles, we're talking specialist roles, the ones that you just can't seem to find enough of this talent right now, the top talent people are looking for. And they're asking me, Kelly, how do I start? How do I
Mhm.
do this? Let's do some backward planning based on your journey. So
Okay.
you had a few things that kind of
Mhm.
shifted, and
Mhm.
it was defined before you even knew you were doing it. But if you would do it over again, what type of backwards planning would you do to get into fractional work?
One thing that I feel like maybe I missed, and of course the market was different then than it is today. A lot has changed. But one thing that I hesitated to do was to specialize. I hesitated to narrow down what my offering was. And I thought it was because I'm in a small market. My town isn't that big. I'm close to Green Bay, but even Green Bay is not that big. I thought I need to have a lot of offerings so that I can entice a lot of clients. And I wish I had realized sooner that specialization is actually better because it makes your message more clear. You can more succinctly tell others what you do if you narrow that down. it's so funny that we're having this conversation today because earlier today I met with a woman who does very similar work to what I do, and she wants to go fractional as well. And she was telling me in her journey that she has worked a lot in finance. And then she kept going and she's like, but I'm also thinking about maybe doing real estate and maybe doing property man. And I'm like, hold on, hold on. Do you know how few people there are who do what we do, who focus on finance? Like, if you can do that, if you know how to work through compliance issues and like stay in your lane, honey, do finance. Like, that is a really special thing. And sometimes we can't see that. It's that not being able to read our own label from inside the bottle. That's how I felt when the CEO said I was a fractional CMO. Like sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. So I think that twofold there. Don't be afraid to get specific and ask other people what they see your strengths. I think that can really help us to get where we want to go faster. But because sometimes we have a struggle in identifying our own gifts.
Yeah. Well, okay, I like both of these parts for the same reasons why I do what I do. So one is when you hone down on what you're really good at, or your specific industry or specific specialty, you're playing in your energy zone. And I totally disregarded that as someone who is teaching energy management and burnout concepts because I also wanted to help everyone, but there's areas and industries and certain companies that I just did not thrive with. Did we get the job done? Did we hit the goal? Yes, but did I enjoy doing it? Not compared to some of my other clients. So when I started shifting my focus and really specifying my message, those clients that I thrived with started being attracted to the message. And I think sometimes it's similar to what you said, right? You want to do it all so you can make sure you have business, but if you're leaving something that isn't bringing you energy into something else that is not going to bring you energy, you're not really doing what you set out to do.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
point. That's a great point. And that might take a while to find that right place as well. So I have mentioned to folks, take a look at your previous clients and customers and ask yourself those questions. Which was the most satisfying to you? Who did you like working with? Not necessarily just where did you make the most money? Where was the biggest income? But what felt good to you and what about that? And yeah, it could be industry. It could be company size. It could be an alignment, as it often is, of core values and mission, that something about that aligns really well and is a good fit for you. But that takes some clarity and some time to think about that. And we don't always stop and do that either because we're just so busy the day to day, just moving, getting stuff done.
And that second part is that's why I think that is so impactful is to get feedback from others,
Mhm.
third party of people that you worked with, a third party coach even, be part of groups because they're going to see things that you're not right in front of you. And I've even had comments from clients where they've said like, "Wow, you nailed it," or "You're really good at this," and I'm like, "Huh." Oh, like I just do it. You don't always see the reflection back. Like you did this so different. And that's the things that are people will hire you for and pay the
Yes,
fee for. So
yes.
I love the third party perspective because there's a
Mhm.
lot of specialists that I even see because I have a lot of HR people that come to me and they're moving into fractional work and or doing even just freelance projects for people that one-time things. And they talk this similar to the person you talked to this morning where they list off like 14 things. I'm like, so what are you going to do? What do people seek you out for information? Then they'll tell me two things. I'm like, do that.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're really good at and you're excited. And I can see your face lighting up when you talk about it. And but again, I was a third party person, not in their day-to-day life,
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, I see you light up when you talk about that. What if you just do that and get really good?" Because you're getting
Yeah.
hired as the specialist or the expert or the person who knows their stuff. So you can't know
Mhm.
everything.
Right. Right. Yeah. And actually, Kelly, shameless self-promotion here, but that's the reason why I wrote this book. Flex the Freelance is my second book. And I wrote it because people kept asking me those questions. How do you do this? How did you start your business? And I didn't realize the knowledge that I have. I think it was in a book by maybe it was a Chip and Dan Heath book, but they talk about the curse of knowledge. When you know something so well, you can't imagine what it's like to not know it. And that was me because I was raised by these serial entrepreneurs and I gleaned so much information. Just I think a lot of it was like through osmosis. I was just in this environment, I was swimming in it, and I didn't know that I was learning so much about how to run a business because I grew up in it. I didn't know until people I noticed this pattern. So that would be something to watch for too, is those patterns. What questions do people ask you? like what questions keep coming up, and like really just to pay attention and listen and look for those patterns can be really telling for us. And again, that time with a third party is going to help too.
I think the patterns is also a crucial step because I found myself in more compliance or methodical type of situations, which is great for like long-term clients, but that wasn't my thrive zone. Again, I adapt and change. So I found myself in different industries, enjoying my days, even regardless of the work and hours put in, right?
Mhm.
It's re-energizing to you. So um, the pattern I should have noticed, but it took me some time, is one zone was meant for me and one zone's meant for someone else.
Yes, yes. And I'm a big reader too, Haley. I love Michael Hyatt's Free to Focus on that subject as well. If your audience, if someone who is listening today is struggling with that, it really helps you to identify what are the things that satisfy you too. So that's another book I'd definitely recommend.
Yeah, and grab up Tara's book. It will be in the show notes after this. She's definitely, I've picked her brain on so many different facets of not only entrepreneurship, but this fractional and freelance. And again, the flex that goes into it so that you're leading yourself on the right path. So let's go back to Tara, young Tara. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's sitting in this office. She doesn't even know the journey that's ahead of her because you've had a few pivots. Let's go to some of those pivotal moments and shifts. What would you tell yourself or someone in that similar situation in that type of event? What's something that when you reflect back, you're like, huh, I should have said this, I should have done that. What would that be?
I think the goal setting and the external partners come up here again. When you're an independent and you're in an office by yourself all the time, nobody else is telling you what to do. So sometimes it's hard to be accountable and to get things done. For me, it was in some ways easy when I was young because I was so hungry, because I needed the income. I said yes to things. I stretched myself. The public speaking thing that we both do, like that came about because I was broke and someone asked me to. I would have said no, I wouldn't have done it. I didn't think I could. So that was like uh just like a little bit of a stretch there for me to do it, but I was so glad that I did. So knowing the right times to say yes and say no. Say yes because it's in that heart space, because it feels good, or because it's going to stretch your comfort zone. I think continuing to stretch and staying hungry is really hard as an individual professional. For me, I have some built-in accountability partners, and those come in terms of strategic partners like my accountant and my financial advisor. They're great at helping me set goals for financial goals for what I want to reach. I also have a lot of great partners. We're both members of the National Speakers Association. There's excellent partners there who help to ask me hard questions. How many speaking gigs do you have on your calendar for next year, or how are you working to get more of that? I have a gentleman I met with last week. We're going to check in again in a month, and he's going to ask me about how I'm doing on my next book because I asked him to, because I need accountability to keep me moving forward. I'm very much naturally a forward thinker, always striving, always reaching for more, but I don't want to become complacent. I don't want to drift, and I don't want other things to pass me by. And sometimes it gets harder as you progress further in your career. I look at what I made last year and the year before, and I'm like, it's all right. That's all right. You get that lax attitude and then you're going to have a down year. So it's like a constant keep working. So set goals, have accountability partners, keep hustling for what you want next, and reach out to those people. The woman I met with this morning, she reached out to me because she's like, oh, Tara's doing what I want to do. So she had a conversation with me. That's what I did years ago. I need to keep doing that. I need to keep meeting with people who are doing the thing and having those conversations that are hopefully mutually beneficial, where we're going to continue to push each other forward. So it's a very, as a solopreneur, you cannot be solo. You have to have goals and you have to have partners.
And I love that view too because I feel like often when we go into small business, solopreneurs, fractional work, you are doing things alone, but you don't have to. And also there's environmental setups in which you don't have to pay big bucks for. Masterminds are great. Third party coach directly for you and your business, amazing. But if you're just starting your business, if it's just not financially able to do so, surround yourself around people that are moving in a way that you want to. And that's where accountability partners comes up and the exchange of ideas and the new things. And even if, similar to what Tara's saying, even if someone's doing something similar to you or moving into your type of work, you're not going to do it the same. Some of my great partnerships have been with stress management and burnout professionals,
Mhm.
and all three of us offer different services, have different messages, have our own stories, and we're not competitors. And that was something that I think for years, in the first couple years of me speaking and doing these services, that I thought, I can't be them or I can't reach out to them. And then when I did, my business scaled because they've either done it or have some tips of what they've run into. And again, we don't apply our work the same.
Mhm.
So it wasn't as much as a competitor situation as I felt like I couldn't ask for help. And I
Mhm.
think when I see people quit entrepreneurship or if fractional work, I always wonder, could they have made it if they would have asked for some help, some support, or reach out? And those most times don't cost anything if you surround yourself with people that are going the same way.
Yes, yes, that's such a good one. And some of the things that I wish I had done sooner were joining some of the professional organizations that I'm a member of now. I said that about the National Speakers Association. I wish I joined sooner. I didn't know all of the resources that were available to me. I didn't know all the networking opportunities that were available to me. I said the same thing about the American Marketing Association. I wish I joined sooner. I logged into their site and I saw all this stuff that I had made from scratch for myself and for my clients that I could have had access to had I joined this group sooner. The Public Relations Society. I do a lot of PR work for a lot of my clients, and the things that are available, the resources that are available with our member associations can be so, so powerful, so, so advantageous to it. So that's a really good reminder too. And what I love about all of these groups that I've talked about is the same thing you said. It's not, it's not your competition. It's not because we're all different. I actually keep a spreadsheet of people who are my connections. My LinkedIn is huge. It's a lot to manage. I've got great connections on there, but I've got like my solid core list of people who I'm going to recommend again and again and again. And I know exactly what they do best. And I'm going to recommend them for that specific thing all day long because it's always a little different. Just like you talked about, you've got a lot of HR people, but they do different things. You've got a lot of burnout people, but they have different services. You've got like all overlapping connections, and everyone is happier when they're doing what they do best. You know that you're not going to burn out. Even if you're working a lot, you're not going to burn out if it's something that you love. So stay in your lane and don't be afraid to share with someone else a piece that you don't love. If you don't love managing your own social media, don't do it. If you don't love doing your invoicing, don't do it. Get a service or a person who can handle some of that stuff for you. Focus on what you do best.
Yeah. Well, I hope that everyone who's listening to this has taken Tara's story and realized you don't have to be stuck in an office dreading coming in every day and like, why am I here? This is so misaligned with what I want to do. That entrepreneurship, fractional work is possible through backward planning and supporting yourself with a network of people who are going the same way. It makes it a little less lost and lonely. So thank you so much, Tara, for coming. Please grab up her book or resources in the show notes. And I appreciate your time so much today. Tara, you gave me accountability and support today. So I appreciate you so much more than you know. And I hope that we can continue the conversation into freelance, fractional, and contract work.
Thank you, Kelly. I would love that too. You know, the work that you do is why I do what I do. It's because I was feeling that burnout. I was feeling that stress. So I think we want the same thing for our audience, and I hope they reach out to both of us. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.